It's day 2 of the 2019 Pokémon World Championships. Much like the ongoing Scarlet and Violet Regulation G, the 2019 World Championships were played in what is known as a restricted format. That means typically illegal legendary Pokémon like Groudon, Kyogre, and the like were allowed. In 2019, players were restricted to 2 restricted Pokémon per team, and as a result, the format was run by monsters like Xerneas, Rayquaza, Lunala, and Yveltal, alongside standard top tiers like Incineroar, Amoonguss, and the Tapus. This matchup from Swiss Round 2, Gabriel Agati vs Zhehuan Huang, featured a bunch of them. On the field here during Game 2, you can see Xerneas, Lunala, Tapu Koko, and Groudon, and earlier in the game, Incineroar and Mega Kangaskhan had made appearances. None of them would go on to be the MVP of this game. Nope, that would be this guy. Ditto immediately made an impact on the switch-in, transforming into the Ground-type Groudon and earning immunity to Tapu Koko's Discharge. And it was hardly done. Its Choice Scarf made it faster than Zhehuan's Groudon, and Gabriel let Ditto go to work. It took the KO on Koko next turn with the Precipice Blades, and a turn after that it took out Zhehuan's Incineroar with another Precipice Blades. And then it got a third straight knockout, taking out the Groudon. Ditto would even finish the sweep, switching out and coming back in to copy Zhehuan's Geomancy-boosted Xerneas to end it. This was no one-game wonder. Gabriel took Ditto all the way to 10th at the World Championships in 2019. He was joined by 2 more Ditto trainers in the top 50. 41st place finisher Ismat Myron Baek running the exact same 6 as Gabriel, and Aurelian Igigno running a completely different team, also featuring a unique call in Shedinja. This is part of the uniqueness of restricted formats. The most powerful Pokémon of all time get to run wild and take over the meta. But some Pokémon that are usually too weak to ever see usage get to come out and play during these formats as well. Ditto is just one example, and today we're going to go over it and 4 other Pokémon that stepped up like they never had before in restricted formats. In a normal format, even Imposter Ditto, which can transform into the Pokémon across from it upon switching in, isn't really worth running. Part of Ditto's weakness is that although it can copy just about everything about the Pokémon across from it, it maintains its brutal base of 48 HP. Perhaps more importantly though, there just aren't strong enough targets on the other side of the field to justify trying to find the right opportunity to transform. And there's hardly a better opportunity to transform than when that target is a Geomancy boosted Xerneas. Normal formats simply don't have those kinds of targets, which is why Ditto had enjoyed all of one top 64 finish in Generation 9 VGC prior to the new restricted format, Regulation G. Mohamed Faizin placed 39th with Ditto at the Orlando Regionals in 2023, using it as an anti-Dondozo tech with its ability to copy opposing Dondozo commander boost. Ditto's been around for a long time, and Limitless VGC only has one other placement recorded for it in a non-restricted format. At the 2015 UK National Championships, Jamie Miller used Ditto to place 7th. That's it, and that's all. But once the Pokédex opens up, Ditto becomes a real option. Transforming into one of these super powerful Pokémon and outspeeding them all with a Choice Scarf has proven to be a powerful strategy no matter the generation or the available legendaries. It turns out, is Ditto a good Pokémon was the wrong question. Can any other Pokémon do what Ditto does is probably a better one, and the answer to that is an emphatic no. Through Generation 8, Limitless has recorded 31 relevant placements for Ditto in restricted formats, including 3 more top 64 placings for it at 2022 Worlds, the Generation 8 restricted format. Once again, Gabriel Agati led the charge, placing 46th and joining Ben Grismer and Yuya Tada. If early returns from Regulation G are any indication, trainers at the 2024 World Championships better be ready for Ditto yet again. Aaron Traylor piloted it to top 8 at Indianapolis, the first regional of the format, and 3 Dittos made top 32 at the Los Angeles Regionals, including Justin Burns' top 8 team. And on top of that, Justin brought it again to top 8 at his next event, the incredibly stacked North American International Championships. It may not be meta-defining, but with the power level of restricted Pokémon continuing to rise, going from 1 restricted to essentially 2 thanks to Ditto can absolutely swing a match. Shedinja is another perfect example of the way restricted formats can take Pokémon with extremely specific niches and elevate them. Normally, Shedinja can't compete in a meta that might contain, sand to chip down its sole hit point, or a meta that has, far too many Pokemon capable of hitting it for super effective damage necessary to knock it out through Wonder Guard. Restricted formats, however, almost exclusively feature Sun and Rain over Sand thanks to the presence of Groudon's Drought and Kyogre's Drizzle. Many legendaries also don't often run moves that can hit Shedinja through Wonder Guard. Kyogre and Zacian in particular struggled to hit the bug in 2022's restricted format, helping it earn a whopping 8 top 64 appearances at Worlds that year. Now, Shedinja may be orders of magnitude weaker than these legendary threats, dealing pitiful damage with its Shadow Sneaks, but if you can't hit it, it doesn't really matter. Eventually, Shedinja will be the last Pokemon standing, and that forced Zacian and Kyogre players to make sure they had other options to hit it on their teams. Limitless has exactly one recorded result from Shedinja in a format without restricted Pokemon. Sangwon Lee took Shedinja to top 16 at the Korean Nationals in 2018, pairing it with Mega Lopunny, Kommo-o, and a bunch of defensive tanks like Carbink, Incineroar, and Tapu Fini. 5 players would make top 64 Worlds with it the next year though, and it would win 3 events through the 2019 season. Cannes Special Event in France prior to Worlds, and Cologne Regionals and Daytona Regionals after Worlds. The story in Generation 8 was basically the same. Shedinja didn't appear at all until the restricted VGC 2022 format. Limitless recorded 47 results with Shedinja in the 2022 season, including a whopping 8 top 64 finishes at Worlds, with 3 players making top 16. Thankfully for our Generation 9 trainers, Shedinja is not around this time, as it would be an utter menace with the threat of terrestrialization to make Wonder Guard even stronger. Crobat similarly isn't around in Generation 9, but in prior years it has reliably stepped up when restricted formats have come around. Crobat's biggest asset is its combination of a great speed stat with its access to Tailwind. But with terrible attacking stats, Crobat didn't really do much after clicking Tailwind, and so players would usually opt for a Tailwind setter with more to offer, like Salamence or Zapdos. But when the restricted formats rolled around, the needs for a Tailwind setter were more specific. Dealing damage was less of a priority. The ability to set Tailwind despite the presence of opposing Fake Out, usually via the ubiquitous Incineroar, was now at a premium, and Crobat's Inner Focus made it an ideal choice. The fact that it had Haze to wipe out an opposing Xerneas' Geomancy boost and Taunt to stop the Geomancy from happening in the first place merely added to its utility. Oftentimes, this Crobat would only run one damaging move, Super Fang, meaning it would be all but impossible for this Pokemon to take a KO through attacking. But that also becomes less of a problem in restricted formats. When Crobat is next to a Pokemon like Xerneas and Primal Groudon, it can pretty safely rely on them to do most of the damage. Perhaps most importantly though, it had another extremely important asset in a format littered with Incineroar, Inner Focus. Stopping a turn 1 Tailwind is often one of a Fake Out user's top jobs in VGC, and Crobat's Inner Focus caught lots of teams without a way to deny it. Like Ditto and Shedinja, Crobat has seen almost zero usage outside of these formats. Of the 88 Crobat results logged by Limitless, all of 3 came outside of restricted formats. Jackson Hambrick and Jacob Hardenbauer managed to place top 64 with Crobat at US Nationals in 2014, and Riccardo Rispoli managed to take it all the way to top 8 at 2015's Italian Nationals. Crobat started out primarily as a Kyogre supporter, with 3 such teams reaching top 32 at UK Nationals in 2016. But as it turns out, most restricted Pokemon are very happy to operate with the doubled speed stat provided by Tailwind, and as the meta progressed, Crobat would also be seen on Groudon teams, with Xerneas, Rayquaza, and Yveltal all showing up occasionally with Crobat as well. Alistair Sandover won Crobat's only 2016 regional championship, taking the title at Perth. He paired Crobat with Groudon and Rayquaza on a team that threatened multiple forms of speed control thanks to Cresselia and its ability to set Trick Room. Only one player was able to make top 64 at Worlds though, Sam Pandelis, who had also finished top 4 at Australian Nationals just a month prior. Sam was using Crobat with Groudon and Yveltal, with further support in the form of Smeargle and Thundurus and the ever-present Mega Kangaskhan. He was able to take this team to 15th at Worlds, a placing that stands as Crobat's best ever on Pokemon's biggest stage. Now, Crobat didn't reach that high of a peak in Generation 7's restricted format, but it was arguably even more successful. 7 players managed to get Crobat into Day 2 of Worlds 2019, with Marco Silva achieving the bat's best result of the event at 25th place. It also picked up 2 major event wins, both thanks to Ashton Cox, who took home Memphis Regionals and the Latin American International Championships in 2018 with Shedinja and a restricted core of Groudon and Xerneas. By now, the kind of Pokemon we're looking at should be a bit more clear. They do 1 or 2 things extremely well, and the fact that they're now backed up by absurdly powerful legendaries allows them to thrive. It's hard to find Pokemon who are quite as extreme as these 3, but dig deep enough into Pokemon's competitive history, and you'll find a few more. Take Umbreon. It's had some success in singles thanks to its bulk and access to great healing and stalling moves like Moonlight, Toxic, Wish, and Protect, but in doubles, it can easily suffer from all my friends are dead syndrome, sitting on the field and doing nothing while its partners get focused down. In restricted formats, Umbreon can take advantage of 2 tools that get much stronger next to or across from strong Pokemon, Helping Hand and Foul Play. Helping Hand trades a Pokemon's own attacking opportunity for a 1.5 times boost to its partner's attack, A trait that becomes, way more valuable when it's boosting a Groudon's Precipice Blades or Duskmane Necrozma's Sunsteel Strike. Umbreon didn't rise to prominence until the 2019 World Championships, and Limitless only has a single result log for it prior to then, a 5th place finish from Pui Ching Chong at the Hong Kong Regionals just a few months before. But at 2019 Worlds, if you weren't ready for Umbreon, it was a problem. 5 of them made Day 2, and Hirofumi Kimura was able to take his Umbreon supporting Duskmane Necrozma and Groudon all the way to the finals. Hirofumi was streamed 3 times, against Megan Rattle in round 6 of Day 2 Swiss, in top 4, and of course in the finals. Umbreon came to all 7 games. It was so versatile in supporting options. Snarl nerfed special attackers, Foul Play allowed it to pressure strong physical attackers, and Helping Hand enabled not just his legendaries, but also his Scarf Tapu Lele and his Mega Salamence to do huge damage. Umbreon would play a similar role in the restricted format of VGC 2022, once again walling out opponents and healing in Groudon Sun. It didn't have the world's presence it did in 2019, but it did make 2 appearances in top 64 of NAIC. Meanwhile, in Generation 9, all of 1 top 64 appearance at Knoxville in 2023 thanks to Anthony Luganbiel. But with Groudon back, another excellent Sunsetter arriving in Koraidon, and a pair of excellent foul play targets in the Calorexes set to rule Regulation G, I wouldn't rule out a return for Umbreon in 2024. Accelgor found a place on a few successful teams in VGC 2018, a format without restricted Pokemon in Generation 7. Limitless only logged 3 results for Accelgor in this format, although perhaps there's something to be said about the fact that they were all top 4 finishes, including one from Beastcoast's very own James Baek at Roanoke. But it saw even more success in 2019 in the restricted formats of the Sun, Moon, and Ultra series. James took his Accelgor plus Tapu Lele core and paired it with Primal Groudon and Dawnwing's Necrozma to win the Latin America International Championships just 2 weeks after Nils Dunlop. Now, is Accelgor a good Pokemon? That's the wrong question again. More importantly, Accelgor is a fast Pokemon. When the Pokemon next to it are strong enough, Accelgor has a few moves that allow it to really take advantage of that speed. Acid Spray lets it lower the opponent's special defense and soften them up for teammates Tapu Lele, Groudon, Necrozma, and Salamence. It has Encore for disruption, and once Accelgor has worn out its welcome, it has Final Gambit to deal some damage and give a teammate a free switch in. It could even deal with opposing speed control with Tailwind, as it could trigger its Unburden ability by switching into Tapu Lele's Psychic Terrain and using its Psychic Seed, making it faster than just about anything in the format, Tailwind or not. Accelgor isn't in Generation 9, but it might not matter if it was. Accelgor was in Generation 8 and was a complete non-factor in its restricted format from 2022. As scary as this may sound, its 145 base speed simply isn't impressive enough in a world where Regieleki exists. And the proliferation of booster energy speed boosting Paradox Pokemon wouldn't do it any favors in today's world. Many of these restricted format heroes from VGC's past aren't available to trainers building for Scarlet and Violet's Regulation G. But the fact that these Pokemon were able to find valuable niches in formats populated by Pokemon's most ridiculous monsters should get trainers thinking. Is there anything I've been overlooking that might fit perfectly into this upcoming meta? Something that hasn't seen success in a while? Possibly something that hasn't ever seen success? The Pokemon that becomes the next Accelgor or Umbreon or Crobat or Shedinja or Ditto doesn't need to be a great Pokemon. It just needs to do one thing very, very well. Who do you think it'll be? Hey, thank you so much for watching, and if you like this type of content and you want to see more of it, let us know in the comments.